Each thing has a story attached to it. That's a popular melody that's lasted.
Yeah.
All these generations.
Do you remember it?
Da, 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 da. Something like that. That's all I remember. That's it. Da, 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 da,
I don't recognize that.
No.
I always grew up knowing I was Jewish. I didn't know much about Judaism at the time, but I knew I was Jewish.
I definitely knew I was Jewish. Our house was like an island unto itself.
I knew that I would go to synagogue once in a while with my grandfather, and I knew I would never understand anything that was going on.
My beloved grandfather. He taught me to play games, all kinds of games, and I have a love for playing games.
What was the Jewish community like in Uxbridge?
There was no Jewish community.
I didn't really care. Like, I didn't, I mean, I obviously cared about, like, my community or whatever, but not in the sense where I didn't think it was, like, important.
Right.
It was just part of my life or, like, who I was or whatever.
I always wanted to belong and never quite did. I think we always sort of look for it. Mm-hmm. Think about all the people who come to this country now. They all do the same with their people.
It's interesting how profound that feeling can be and not really understand why.
Which feeling?
The feeling of being Jewish and being proud of it. I was proud to be Jewish. I was, even in that environment. When people meet me, they think I'm not Jewish anyway. Don't they? It makes me feel like I want to say, I'm Jewish. Rosemary, yes, I know it's an odd name. It went with Hochberg.
Yes, I think so. I hadn't thought of it as I'm proud to be Jewish. I would say I was proud to be Canadian. I hadn't thought about it as I'm proud to be Jewish. My grandfather was totally Canadian in every way. Mm-hmm. He assimilated in every way. My grandmother never learned English. She only had one thing she said every day: I want to go home. She never left Russia in her heart.
That tension between wanting to leave the past behind in order to move forward.
And someone never wanting to leave the past.
Yeah.
My parents both grew up in, I guess, very Jewish homes, but they were Canadian.
That's something else to wrestle with, being Jewish and Canadian, as in, like, we have inherited these things.
These labels, these identities. Even your grandparents' generation, too, of
like... never talked about it. I used to have conversations with my father, but not so much about that, more about the stars and are there people on other planets, and we can't possibly be the only planet in the sky.
All I can remember about my grandmother, I know that I couldn't speak to her very well, but she played cards. We could play gin rummy. We'd play cards with Grandma. But remember, she cheats.
My grandfather lived in the house. He was very devoted to me, and I adored him. He taught me how to build a castle with the cards. He died when I was 11. I felt guilty and responsible. And then a neighbor, came to the door.
It's okay.
Remember it very well.
Oh.
And I answered the door. I'm sorry about your grandfather. It didn't really register.
Well,
imagine having a reaction like that after all these years.
Well, it means something.
My understanding from a very young age about, like, my grandfather who flew the coop from Russia, like,
we can track back, you know.
Yeah, it was always told in my family.
It becomes the thing that's, like, laminated and, like, is that moment.
It's the untouchable history of, like, this is where we came from.
Right, it becomes lore.
It becomes lore. But then, who do these people become?
Yeah, and I think we came into this with our rose-colored glasses, because that's really what we get to know about our families, is who they were as people, not who they were as, like, Jews or Canadians or symbols.
It is a big part of our lives, but not in a way that we expect it to be.
Well, it is one of the things that bonds us. It's part of who we are. It's that part of our identity that was activated.
So it is important to be proud of it, or like whatever. Because if we're not, then who's around to do that? It just kind of fades to the background.
Sure. Unless we claim it or talk about it, or seek out the people we can talk about it with. And maybe we find our Judaism in music or theater. Like, how do you access that thing? And which parts, what do you want to pass down?
The joy, the stories, the understanding of human nature, the good things. I think that that's more what I want to be remembered for.
Do the best you can, and whatever happens, happens.
Getting to know your family, your grandparents, your ancestors is then getting to know yourself.
Yeah, it just is.
Right?
I don't know what else to say.
When I was a little boy, I wasn't one. And that didn't hurt me. I didn't need to be a he. I didn't need to not be she, because I just was. My body both an anything and an answer. It wasn't yet a broken promise, a picture in a funhouse mirror, need roaring like a forest fire. It wasn't until they said, "You're not him," that I realized that I was. That it's that scene in which we're in a depthless, shapeless room, but it has walls. It certainly has walls. And I keep paring myself open, expecting you to step back, cringe, be sick, but instead you keep advancing. Dip your hand into the hole and eat. Your fingers pink. My insides kin to pomegranate seeds, to 2 ripe berries. You don't see real me in this version, but the abstraction, my silence whispers down the neck of your vintage t-shirt. Meanwhile, real me is offering water to the green tomatoes under Dawn's bruised purple eye. Real me is standing barefoot in the frozen Atlantic, trying to remember the history of sea glass. Real me is dripping candle wax over the collaras and some pagan heralding of sight, a ritual I learned inside a dream. I dig my fingers into flesh to build the tunnel straight through my esophagus, straight through to starlight. Keep going. Onward, 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 and you will know when you've arrived. And the way you'll look, a fruit cut open, when you share the things you've seen, pit bared and holy. When I was a little boy, I wasn't one.